Number 15, 1920 Wall Street bombing. 100 years ago, a disgruntled citizen decided to show his outrage in a most explosive way by blowing up a horse-drawn carriage full of explosives in the middle of Wall Street. Nobody has ever been able to determine who did the dastardly deed that killed at least 30 people and injured more than 300. America's least well-known cold case has an even sadder spin, since the unlucky horse that was pulling the cart of rage is also unlikely to have survived. The terrorist's point, if there was one, is unknown, and the Wall Street bombing has been lost in the century of equally or more horrific actions that humans have inflicted upon one another. Number 14, Incans invented peanut butter. Although this creamy spread's origins have been claimed by countless civilizations, and we could debate all day about who actually perfected it, there is conclusive evidence that the Incans invented peanut butter. Ancient Incan peanut butter hardly resembled our commercialized Jif today. It was more of a grainy utilitarian paste than the ultimate comfort food. But as the civilization evolved, so did the spread. Soon, the spread was made out of roasted peanuts and enjoyed as a special protein-packed treat. We also speculate that the Incans used peanut butter as a currency, and that the delicious food was spread far and wide across the vast Incan Empire. Number 13, Stonehenge's mysterious architects. Archaeologists suspect that ancient Brits didn't build Stonehenge all by themselves. They had a little help from a micro-civilization that was just a blip on the history screen, but contributed a lot during their short time. Meet the Bell Beaker Civilization, a mysterious group of people who archaeologists suspect provided the muscle behind moving Stonehenge's massive rocks. If their speculations are correct, the Bell Beaker Civilization lugged stones 150 miles to the sacred Stonehenge site between 2600 and 1600 BCE. Why were the Bell Beakers so invested in the creation of Stonehenge? It's been long speculated that Stonehenge has incredible pagan significance, and that the stones themselves might hold energy prized by the Bell Beaker civilization. Number 12, Annie Edson Taylor's wild ride. Annie Edson might have been a school teacher in her day job, but she proved that she had nerves of steel outside of the classroom by jumping into a wooden barrel and careening over the Horseshoe Falls. On October 24, 1901, Edson fell a whopping 512 feet to the rocks below, but emerged with just a couple of bumps and bruises. What should have been a watery fate was instead a moment of pride for Annie Edson, who became known as one of the great daredevils in the region. Many copycats followed her harrowing ride, but nobody gets to claim that they were the first and best to tackle the falls and win. Number 11, Egyptians didn't use pillows. Of all the strange and wonderful things that we know about the ancient Egyptians, this one is a doozy. They didn't use pillows. Instead of snuggling into a soft, deep, fluffy pillow at night, Egyptians used to sleep on solid headrests. Think about taking a cat nap on your desk at school, except way less comfortable and for 8 straight hours. Egyptians were even more hardcore with their materials, fashioning their headrests out of ivory, wood, and marble. Why did the Egyptians poo-poo padding? We might never know if they were on to something, or if their sleeping habits were just straight up peculiar. Our next crazy fact shows that ancient Egyptians aside, we have a lot more in common with our ancestors than we might think. Number 10, Vikings like to hit the slopes. We know Vikings as fearsome, seafaring folk whose barbarism knew no bounds. But did you also know that they loved to ski? Norsemen took to the slopes like nobody's business, challenging hills and mountains alike 6,000 years ago. Although some ski trips were utilitarian, others were used purely for sport, and the Vikings passed their love of all things snow down to their children. They even had a god of skiing named Uruk, known for his dashing good looks and his hot temper. Records tell us that the Vikings relished the sport so much that they actually had skiing competitions. Although this fact is a happy little note about the Vikings, our next one is decidedly darker and involves one of the brightest and best minds in history. Number 9, Michelangelo's vengeful streak. Michelangelo might be one of the greatest minds that ever existed, as well as our favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, but did you know that he was also a bit of a bastard? Michelangelo was notoriously thin-skinned when it came to anyone criticizing his work, so much so that he once depicted a critic in one of his paintings in possibly the least flattering way imaginable. When Biagio de Cesena criticized Michelangelo for painting nude figures in the Sistine Chapel, the famous artist hit back with a vengeance. Michelangelo gave de Cesena his very own debut in The Last Judgment, where his unfortunate critic is seen with the ears of a donkey and a snake biting him right in the crotch. When de Cesena complained to the Pope, the head of the church deflected responsibility, claiming that hell was not his jurisdiction. Epic. Number 8. Napoleon's bizarre bed companion. There are a lot of myths and legends swirling around about Napoleon, notably that his lust for conquering stemmed from his short stature. Untrue, since Napoleon was of average height. One famous rumor is absolutely rooted in reality, and it's one of the strangest things that you never heard. Napoleon's wife, Josephine, had a collection of exotic pets that would make Carol Baskin jealous. Chief among them was an orangutan named Rose, who Josephine taught table manners, dressed in finery, and allowed to sleep in bed with her and Napoleon. Yes, one of the greatest military minds that France ever saw shared his bed with an orangutan. Number 7. Albert Einstein's brush with politics. Notable brainiac Albert Einstein is one of the most recognized figures of the last century, and his theory of relativity shapes the way that we understand science today. The brilliant Einstein could have had another notch on his belt, but he declined. In 1952, Albert Einstein was asked to become President of Israel, making him the second person in the world to hold that notable title. Chaim Weizmann, Israel's first president, asked Einstein because he considered him the greatest Jew alive. Einstein turned down the offer and continued geniusing as a private citizen. But who knows what would have happened if he would have dipped his toe into politics? The world might be completely different today. Number 6. Mao's blood-soaked cultural revolution. Mao Zedong's cruelest act came cloaked in an innocent-sounding name: the Cultural Revolution. Between 1966 and 1976, Mao unleashed a wave of terror on his opponents, the likes of which hadn't been seen for decades. Mao's directive to clear up the old system allowed his cronies and supporters to destroy Chinese relics and kill anyone that stood in their path. We might never know just how many died in Mao's campaign, but some estimates say it might top 2 million. Number 5. Ancient Indian nose jobs. Let's take it from bloodshed to beauty with an ancient cosmetic surgery industry that blossomed and thrived in yesteryear India. Back in the 6th century BCE, surgeons began performing nose jobs on unfortunates who lost that feature through accident or punishment. One of the most popular doctors was named Shashruta, whose revolutionary technique of rebuilding the nose from cheek and forehead skin saved many an ancient Indian face. Shashruta is known as the founding father of plastic surgery, as well as weighing in on other modern ailments and conditions, like diabetes. It's fair to say that this incredible doc was years before his time. Number 4. The Great Wall is a gravesite. This obscure fact shouldn't come as that much of a surprise if you think about it. Most of the marvelous monuments of our world contain a smattering of dead bodies, and the Great Wall of China is certainly no exception. What is stunning is the sheer number of dead entombed within the wall itself. An estimated 400,000 people perished during the construction of the Great Wall of China, and many of them were thrown right into the wall as a makeshift burial. It's no exaggeration to say that you're literally treading on ancient bones with every step you take on the Great Wall. If you think that is shocking, wait until you check out our number 3 pick. Number 3. The French Baby Lottery. It was not France's most exceptional day when they started auctioning off live babies to raise money for an orphanage. Ghastly perhaps, but entirely true. In 1911, a Parisian orphanage decided to make do with what they had and started running a lottery for some of the most beautiful babies they had in stock. Called Loterie des Bébés, this bizarre lottery had the full blessing of the Parisian police and was widely praised at the time as a creative way to find homes for abandoned babies. Although the orphanage swore that it vetted every would-be parent who won a child that day, nobody knows for sure what the fate of the auctioned-off tykes wound up being. Number 2. Vincent van Gogh's mysterious murder. Van Gogh might just be the poster boy for the tortured artist, and his famous suicide went uncontested for years. But was this unappreciated genius actually murdered? Some people think so. Van Gogh was a local eccentric and often found himself the butt of cruel jokes played by local neighborhood kids. Historians speculated that Van Gogh might have had the gun turned on himself by local pranksters, who shot the artist unwittingly and then claimed suicide to cover up their tracks. The evidence? Van Gogh didn't have burn marks on his hands, and he was shot in the stomach, a highly unlikely place for a suicide. Number 1. Disgusting Roman mouthwash. The Romans might have invented some of the most sophisticated devices in the world, created great art, and inspired us with their culture, but there was one area that they fell short: oral hygiene. Since time began, people have been taking care of their teeth in creative ways, and the Romans were indeed no exception. Except that where we use Listerine to clean our mouths, they use something different. Portuguese pee was the preferred choice of mouthwash, and it was in such high demand that there was actually a shortage. Why was Portuguese pee considered the best? Your guess is as good as ours. Fortunately, we have plenty of less detestable options today, and nobody needs to gargle with urine to have a $1 million smile. Thanks for watching. Would you rather time travel back to the Roman Empire, or fast forward 1,000 years into the future? Let us know in the comments section below.